Hey everybody, it is Trags, Mike Petralia, back with this week's episode of the Jungle Roar podcast, powered by FanDuel Sportsbook, the exclusive online wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. Back with me today to discuss on a very short week, a critical Bengals game in Baltimore this Thursday night is none other than Bengals.com chief staff writer, Geoff Hobson. And let me tell you right up front, Butch, I appreciate all of the effort that you have put forth in the last 15 minutes to get us on the air together.
That's Trags. That's my bad. Now I know what it was like to get Apollo 13 back.
It certainly felt like that. This was mission control between the two of us, and we were operating in the dark, but we got you not only sounding loud and clear, but looking crystal clear. So
okay.
I appreciate that. And by the way, props on the hat. That is just an old school, very much a great tribute to the one and only Ken Riley. Finally, in his deserving place in Canton, Ohio, posthumously, albeit, as a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I'm glad his son could celebrate it. Just, you still look back on that day as a very fond moment. This past
it's
August.
One of the top. It's probably one of my top 3 days in the business. I'd have to feel going through the process. I mean, I talked to Kenny about it a week before he passed about getting him into the Hall, and it had been something we've been talking about for, probably 20 years. So for him not to be there was really tough. But to see Kenny and Barbara, his wife, and Kenny, his son, and his family. To see them up there with the bust, chills.
No question. And let me ask you this: the next most deserving member that is going to Canton is, in your opinion?
The last name is Anderson. whether it's Ken or Willie, Kenny's waited the longest. Willie's the most dominant right tackle of his era. He's been waiting too. But, that also doesn't take away from guys like Corey Dillon, Chad Johnson, Isaac Curtis, Tim Krumrie, other guys, that should be mentioned.
I would agree with that. Let's move on to the present day Bengals, and they are facing a very critical game because of what I think was a very disappointing performance on Sunday afternoon. I didn't see it coming. I thought the Bengals would take care of business against the Houston Texans. And after that first drive, Butch, when they go 75 yards in, I believe it was 10 plays, march right down the field, a beautiful Burrow to Trenton Irwin pass over the cornerback right before the safety came over to help. I'm thinking to myself, well, that's a good start. And that looks like the Bengals were going to go out and take care of business. And then their offense just went completely dormant.
Yeah, it's interesting, Trags, this game coming up in Baltimore Thursday night. I think the Ravens have blown all 3 games in the fourth quarter, I think.
Yep.
And before Sunday, the Bengals were probably the best team at closing out games. So it's kind of an interest, and even, okay, what are they now? They're 21-1 when they score first. So, it's kind of an interesting contrast going in there about finishing and closing games.
There was a ridiculous stat, and I don't know if you saw this. The Bengals, when they lead going into the second quarter, did you see that?
I saw that. Wasn't that 20-0 or something? Or 21-0? Or
I think it was either 20-0 or 21-0. It's just a remarkable number, and really it doesn't mean much because games, as we saw on Monday night in Buffalo, for goodness sakes, games have their ebbs and flows. And just as a quick aside for Bengal fans licking their wounds after watching what happened on Sunday in Cincinnati at Paycor Stadium. Imagine being a Buffalo Bills fan right about now and watching your quarterback, Josh Allen. And yes, he's playing through some shoulder issues. Right. It could be a very serious shoulder issue. We really don't know. But Josh Allen does not look right. And to put up just whatever it was, 22 points, I believe, against the Denver Broncos, who in week 2 gave up 70 to Buffalo's division rival down in Miami. You do wonder what's going on in Buffalo, right?
Yeah, Trags, did he throw it on that last drive? I think it was all
No,
runs.
it was all runs. That's a great
Yeah,
point, Butch. Yeah, it
yeah,
was definitely all
yeah,
runs.
yeah. I mean, that's a boy. I tell you what, who do does somebody not get fired today in Buffalo?
Well,
I
I
don't know.
mean,
I don't know whether it's going to be a quality control assistant or the guy who holds towels or the special teams coach. But I got to believe some
Ken
some poor guy,
Dorsey is,
some poor
look,
person's going to pay. Some poor person's going to pay for what happened.
the offensive coordinator in Buffalo, Ken Dorsey, correct, is has been somebody who has been under scrutiny. I
Yeah,
think ever since the Bengals playoff loss last year at home, and maybe really,
yeah,
in all honesty, before that. But it's just important, I think, for Bengal fans to realize that it's hard to win in the National Football
yeah,
League, and that sounds like the worst coach's cliche you could come up with
yeah.
after a game like the Bengals played on Sunday. They really laid an egg on both sides of the ball. But getting back to the Bengals and that game on Sunday, what I'm going to ask you the same question we asked Zach Taylor
Yeah.
and Brian Callahan on Monday afternoon. What do the Bengals have to do to avoid these lulls when they go into situations where they're punting the ball 5 straight drives?
You know, first down. Dave Lapham talks about this all the time when he's broadcasting the games. Is during that winning streak, they were gold on first down. You know, making a lot of a headway. You know, 6, 7, 8 yards.
Right.
So they barely ever got the third down. You know, and third down is kind of a crapshoot anyway. They know you're going to pass. They're in nickel. They're in nickel. You're in spread. You know, so it's kind of a battle of wills there. You don't want to get the third down almost. And it seems like every time they do get into these things, and it's and it always seems to be they set that tone early. Like, what if Burrow gets sacked in San Francisco? On that unbelievable Houdini play, that
Yes.
throw to
On the
T.
first
Higgins.
drive. Yes.
The people will be watching that 50 years from now, Bengals fans. I was there, they'll say. No, it was in San Francisco. But anyway, they'll. But what if that doesn't happen? Are those one of the lulls? You know, they always seem like when Zach says, "Well, I didn't get him in a rhythm." I think what he's saying is we didn't get the second. We didn't get that the next first down. And to me, it's and they're some of it too. And this is no excuse, obviously, because everybody's playing hurt. But I thought Brian said an interesting thing yesterday. You know, they didn't know about Jamar, and since they didn't know about Jamar, they didn't really have their entire playbook handy, and I'm sure that hurt him. And obviously, not having Higgins hurt him too.
Yeah,
So
there's no question. And look, all due respect to Tanner Hudson. Love the
yeah,
guy, love
yeah.
the way he's played hard for the Bengals. And
You
really,
weren't thrilled. You weren't thrilled with that 3rd and 2, were you,
so you
Trags?
were sitting behind me or in the neighborhood of me when that ball was tossed down to Tanner Hudson. And we asked, or actually unsolicited, Brian Callahan spoke about that play on 3rd and 2.
Yeah,
What I thought was a fairly low percentage play to a
yeah,
guy that doesn't catch a lot of balls
yeah,
and certainly isn't targeted a lot. I'm like, what
yeah,
is going into that play call?
yeah,
And the way Callahan explained it to me when I asked that was it was a type of a pick play where we set it up in man coverage to get Hudson open, and we thought we had the play set up the way we wanted it, and he just didn't get both feet down. And I'm thinking
yeah,
to myself, well, don't you want a 5-yard stick route somewhere? And
yeah,
granted, Houston's playing very good man defense in that game,
yeah,
but somebody's got to win a battle. Uh, 5 yards downfield. God knows they threw enough passes between the line of scrimmage and 10 yards on
yeah.
Sunday and no further downfield, which is, we'll get to that in a minute. But somebody's got to win a one-on-one battle, Butch, I think, in that particular situation. And if you're Joe Burrow, you just need to move the sticks. To me, that fade on the sideline to Tanner Hudson was kind of indicative of why the offense was so askew and really out of sorts on Sunday.
I just think they rely so much on Burrow. They know. I mean, probably no other quarterback could make that play that close. And I think they just have this tremendous and with every reason they should have that confidence in Burrow. And you I just think Sunday's an example where the league is so tight. I mean, Trags, I just don't remember the league being this even. What was it? It was just Sunday. They set a record, right? 5 games decided at the gun on a field goal. I was looking at it. Stat Master, Jay Morrison, the Stat Masterson of the Bengals media crew, gave me a stat last night. Thursday night games now, the home team actually has a losing record. I mean, that's unbelievable to me.
That is stunning.
Because in years past, going back to 2000, they were like 600, 650, 700. To me, it just shows how that stat, the play to Hudson, just shows how even this league is. You live by Burrow, you die by Burrow. You live by Pratt getting turnovers. You live by Pratt not being able to rip Noah Brown. It's just.
And by the way, on that play, I digress here, but on that play, if Nick Scott and Jermaine Pratt bring down Noah Brown at the initial point of contact and allow him whatever it would have been an 11-yard gain, something like that, 12-yard gain, that field goal would have been no good because, as you saw from Matt Amendola, the ball was starting to fade towards the right upright.
Yeah.
If you're, let's say, another 15 yards or 12 yards back like he should have been, that field goal would have been no good, and they would have gone to overtime. If and buts, candy, and nuts, it would be Christmas. But
it would have been a 51-yarder, and the kid had never made a 50-yarder in an NFL game. So
that's right.
You got to take those odds, right? So yeah, I mean, but they'll, and then it will turn. To me, this thing's cyclical, and the league is so even. Honestly, I think it just comes down to. Just look at the Baltimore. The last 2 years, the Bengals have won the division without Lamar Jackson being healthy. Now they go to Baltimore, Lamar's healthy, and the Bengals don't have their 2 best edge rushers. It's almost cyclical. It's almost like what goes around comes around.
Score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action, NFL. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including you got spreads, you got your player props, you got over-unders, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston and kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Okay, let's get to that. I actually think, and I've floated this in the media room on Monday, I'm not saying you don't want Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard healthy and playing. Of course you do. But in one way, the Bengals not pressuring and getting after Lamar Jackson and letting him sit in the pocket, to me, is not the worst thing in the world. Because if you're going to beat Lamar Jackson, I think what you got to do is play better secondary coverage than you did on Sunday and let Lamar Jackson try to beat you from the pocket. That over time has been the one way teams have been able to address Lamar Jackson, keep him from running downfield at 5, 10, 15-yard clips and, breaking plays down. And to me, that's the way you got to go against Lamar Jackson. So I think in one way it could help them.
Yeah, I think, it's an interesting point, Trags. It's a good point. I think what Lou calls it the mush rush, right? Where you make sure he doesn't, you keep him in the pocket. You really don't rush, you just make sure he doesn't get out. Yep. And, of course, he's also completing 70% of his passes, too, which is, I think he's kind of upgraded. But I think you do have to,
the other thing you do.
You got to take that, he's going to kill you with the legs. He might kill you with his arm. So I think you have to take his legs away.
Well, and there are other ways to apply pressure on the quarterback from just instead of just relying on the edge. You can bring blitzes up the middle. You can stunt. You can really ask for BJ Hill and DJ Reader to get after Lamar and, break down the offensive line in the middle of the line, almost like an inverted umbrella, if you will, where you have to collapse the middle of the umbrella first and keep the edge of the umbrella steady. That's, to me, the best way to get after Lamar, but we'll wait and see.
Well, I mean, they'll have to deal with Andrews too, and they've always done a nice job with the Ravens Pro Bowl tight end. But Schultz really hurt him. I thought Schultz really hurt him with some big plays for the Texans. So they'll have to deal with that. I mean, the bottom line is these guys, and from Mike Hilton to Cam De La Britt to Nick Scott, they'll tell you, we got to cover better. So it'll be interesting. I think those guys, I think they'll play well because I
Okay.
think I think they'll play well because it's the feeling's still there. It was just 48 hours ago.
Well, that's just it. And let's move on to that now. And that is, Butch, that this Bengal team has to lick its wounds quickly. They're banged up. They've got 4 key players who were listed on the projected injury report on Monday because the Bengals did not practice on Monday. They practiced today, tonight, Tuesday. You've got Andre Yosivas. He is nursing a knee injury sustained on Sunday. You've got the 3 H guys. You've got Hendrickson, Hubbard, and Higgins all dealing with various injuries. Ankle injury for Hubbard, of course. The knee injury that we saw, hyperextended knee from Trey Hendrickson on the last play of the game Sunday. And obviously, you have the hamstring injury for T. Higgins. What are your hopes or thoughts that any one of those 4 gets on the field on Thursday night?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess you're hoping Hubbard because he took he didn't play Sunday, I guess. But this reminds me of when Baltimore was beat up the last 2 games the Bengals played them last year in the final regular season game. Remember, they didn't even have their backup quarterback in that final regular season game, and then in the wild card game, they were also beat up. They did get their backup quarterback back, but they were beat up all the way down the roster, and they gave the Bengals games. They gave them the Bengals. They gave them everything they had. And they nearly pulled out the wild card there at the end. I mean, they played it close. So I expect that even though the Bengals are reduced roster wise, they've still got number 9, and they've still got number 28, and they've got everybody back. They've got their back 7 healthy. So I think there's enough tools down there that you'll probably see a last snap game.
I think, Butch, that Sunday was an anomaly, certainly when it comes to the explosive plays. I don't think we've seen a Lou Anarumo coach defense give up that many explosive plays of over 20 yards or more, 17 of them. That is tied for the 4th most since 2000 in the NFL. The cornerbacks were allowing Noah Brown and everybody else to run free deep down the field because apparently they thought when C.J. Stroud was out of the pocket, he wasn't as much of a threat to throw downfield. And Mike Hilton told me after the game, we should have been thinking, or all of us should be thinking, no, he's more of a threat to throw the ball downfield because he's not looking to run.
Yeah, I think, I don't know. I think it felt like to me that they wanted Stroud to sit back there. And at least as the way, Cam Taylor Britt kind of said, I think they thought they were going to see if he could make the good decisions in the zone. And he did. And they switched up the man, and they thought they had pretty good success against when they played him man. And I think it's a good man team. I mean, I thought DJ Turner had a big play at the end of the game, at late in the game, to get the ball back.
Correct, on 3rd down. That's right.
He's a good man cover. Hilton can cover man. Taylor Britt. These guys, that's why they drafted him. They can play man. They can match up. I think Awuzie is, he's not playing as much. I think he's still coming back from his knee, but we've seen what he can do. He was their best cover corner before he tore his ACL. So, I mean, I think, these guys have been through the wars. They're really good. I sense that the secondary they won't let that happen again. There's just too many. Like Hilton said this too. He said we get too many good players for that to happen.
Yeah, and I think that is something that the Bengals are going to rely on Thursday night. I think the defense is going to be better, and Baltimore certainly he's capable with Lamar Jackson as the quarterback of throwing the ball downfield and having explosive plays with Mark Andrews and certainly Odell Beckham. And by the way, a player that I covered toward the end of my time in Boston, Zay Flowers, is the real deal. And he is somebody that, he had a decent game against the Bengals the first time around in week number 2. They got to keep an eye on him on Thursday as well.
You know what? But it's the thing you got to do with Baltimore. You can't get behind him, and you can't let him run the ball. It's still a John Harbaugh team. There's a new offensive coordinator, but it's still a John Harbaugh team, and he wants to deflate the game. He wants to deflate the clock. He wants to shorten the game. He wants to pound you. And if you look at the other 3 teams in this division, they've all got great running games. And to me, this is what separated the Bengals in 2021 when they went out and they capped off that defense. They were stingy against the run. That's what had hampered them in the last years of Marvin Lewis and in the first years of Zach Taylor. They could not stop the run, and that has raised. To me, that's whether you stop the run is going to dictate how you're going to play defense, particularly in an AFC North game. And we've seen it raise its head a little bit the last couple of. We saw it in October when Derrick Henry kind of had a big day, and Devin Singletary had the only guy who had a better day against the Louisiana defense was J.K. Dobbins. So, I think they got to get back to their roots. Their roots is stopping the run.
Okay, I'm going to bring up this one play and ask you really quick if you saw the film of this when you watched the game back. Devin Singletary's touchdown run off to the right side, 6 yards. There was a lot about that play that concerned me. The linebackers were slow to read the play because Wilson and Pratt were both on the field and they got kind of wrong-footed. They read it wrong. Myles Murphy could not shed a block from a wide receiver. And the gap on the outside, he could have driven a Mack truck through it. And Singletary went into the end zone untouched from whatever it was, 6 or 7 yards out. That is, to me, a play. If I were Lou Anarumo, I would show the defense over and over and over again about things that we cannot do. You agree?
Yeah, I think, like I say, it's if the run, to me, the run dictates everything because it dictates the clock. And, I think any team that's playing the Bengals is saying we want to keep Burrow off the field. So I mean that's going to be, I think, to me, that's to be any team's game plan is, we're gonna control the clock any way we can. And like I say, also Sam Hubbard's the best run defender in the league from the edge position, right? I think that was a factor.
Certainly.
Too. When you lose a guy like that, that's that's obviously going to show up. And I think they've, the guys they've got there, I think are good players. Murphy's a good player.
I think I agree. And not to interrupt you, Butch,
game. Yeah, he's in his 10th game, right? So
he's in his 10th game, and he's been steadily improving in terms of the people I've talked with. They've seen really good growth from Murphy from from training camp, early part of the season to now. And that's why that kind of surprised me so much is that he got kind of wrong-footed. He didn't, shed the wide receiver blocker. It's just not something you would expect at this point of the year from, a first-round pick.
Well, I think I think it's probably the first time he's been in that situation, right? Because of the Hubbard situation. So I think he'll live and learn, and I think that's part of the, thank God they don't have, thank God he doesn't have to go in there and play, like a lot of teams are playing Myles Murphy, they're playing him 70 plays as a rookie. I think he's got the benefit, Murphy has the benefit of learning behind Hubbard and Hendrickson. And so, I think that's that in the end is going to benefit him sitting and watching, and he'll learn from that play. I think, you're right. From what, all reports are on Murphy are he's headed the right way. And, and I think Lou talks about this too is, you have to make mistakes to get better. That's what guys do.
Yep. I'll buy that. If the Bengals don't have Trey Hendrickson. We are assuming here on Tuesday before a Thursday night game. It's very unlikely, and according to multiple national reports, Hendrickson will miss at least this Thursday and maybe the week after against the Pittsburgh Steelers. What do they do if they don't have Trey Hendrickson?
I think it's all hands on deck. It's Osai, it's Sample, it's Murphy. You know, the tackles are probably playing a little bit more BJ Hill on the outside, right? I mean, it's probably more blitzing.
Yeah, that's actually a great point, Butch. Yeah, and I think Luke's shown before he can get creative, and he probably have to get a little bit more creative than he maybe even would like in this particular situation. But look, we know, Butch, we've been around the sport long enough. Every team deals with injuries. Yeah. It's just that when you combine the injuries of mid to late November with the short week, which I still hate in the NFL, I think the idea of giving these guys just 3 weeks to recover an NFL game competition is ridiculous. But every team has got to deal with it at least once a year. So
there's no way a division game should be on a Thursday night. There's no way. I mean, it's just too important. And you know, but I look at what Baltimore was riddled last year, and
they found a way.
So and they played well, against the Bengals, and I fully expect that Thursday to be it's still going to be a premium game.
So we both wrote this for Tuesday today. You on Bengals.com, me on CLNSCincy.com. This feels like playoff football in November, quoting Brian Callahan from Monday. And I think the Bengals are going to come out. Not that they needed to lose on Sunday for this to be an urgent game, but I think they're going to play with a great deal of urgency, knowing that if they really want to make a run at a third straight AFC North division title, they got to win Thursday night.
Yeah, I think it will be. I won't say they'll play desperate, but we've seen this team before in November. 2 years ago, they went to Vegas. 2 5-4 teams. Who was ever going to win was going to survive, and who was ever going to lose. Although the Vegas did end up making the playoffs, though. But they went through the 10-game winning streak last year. They were down 17-3 to Brady. They won a tough game up in New England in the cold. They came within a hair. They came within a hair of going back to the Super Bowl. I mean, these guys have been there, and it means a lot to them. And I just think that, but we've never seen them in this situation. Short week against the AFC North leader will be really,
I'm fascinated to see how they come out Thursday.
Yeah, I don't think there's no doubt in my mind that they'll come out. I think they'll come out like they came out in Kansas City last year when they really met, in the title game, when they just matched them, when they really matched that intensity and broke out fast. So it's in their DNA. It's a Burrow team, and that's how Burrow's coming out. He's seething, and I see him. He's obviously he's not only the face of the team. He's the soul of the team. If Mixon is the heart of the team, Burrow's the soul of the team, and I think that that's what they used to say about the Joe DiMaggio Yankees. So go the Yankees, so goes DiMaggio. So I think it's the same with the Bengals. And Burrow.
I do too, and I have some optimism just based on what you just said that the Bengals have demonstrated in multiple situations over the last 2 years that they respond to pressure. And this is another high pressure situation in prime time. By the way, you mentioned Jay Morrison earlier. He had the stat, and it's remarkable. And the Bengals certainly would like to snap this. They have lost 14 consecutive road primetime games.
Let me say this. Their last win was against an Andy Reid Eagles team.
Yep, I remember the game. Yep.
4 days after they lost a last snap field goal game at home to Dallas.
I remember the game. 20-19, I believe, was the score.
Tony Romo.
I remember that. Romo marched him right down the field, and They kicked the game-winning field goal. That was a gut-punching loss at home. And 4 days later, like you said, they responded on the road at Philly. But this is a division game and a team that is much better than that. I believe that was 2012. What was it?
That was Andy Reid's last Eagles team, so it couldn't have been good.
No, I think it was 2012. But anyway,
yeah, I think it was. Yes, that was that Dallas loss was an only loss in that stretch of the last 8 games. They won 7 of their last 8 to make the wild card.
Yeah, that was a 10-6 wild card team, I believe.
That was the Geno Atkins game in Pittsburgh on December 22nd.
Oh, that's great memory. See, but
I don't know where my car keys are, Trags.
So we're going to let you search for your car keys so you can get down to Paycor and cover what is a Wednesday on a Tuesday as we get ready for Thursday night football. Butch, you're the best. I appreciate you coming on short notice. I appreciate you working out all of the technical glitches and goblins and gremlins in the system, and we got you on. So thank you.
I appreciate you for your patience. Clearly, you're a Cincinnati guy who worked in New England. Because if you were a New England guy who worked in Cincinnati, you wouldn't have had the patience that you had.
Don't call me Job, just call me Trags. You know what
Trags,
I mean?
you're the best. You're the best, Trags.
All right, Bush. He is
the nicest man in journalism.
I don't know about that, but he is Geoff Hobson. You can follow all of his tremendous work on Bengals.com. Please do that. He also helps out the breakdown crew on Bengals.com with Dan Horde and Dave Lapham, correct?
They're the best. The modern day answer to Gil Santos and Gino Cappelletti.
They are indeed, and that is a Patriots reference for anybody who ever wanted to listen to two great football broadcasters before Dan Horde and Dave Lapham. That would be Gil and Gino, WBZ for many, many years covering the New England Patriots. All right, we got to move on here. He is Geoff Hobson of Bengals.com. My name is Trags. Mike Petralia. I want to thank you for downloading and watching and or listening to this episode of the Jungle Roar podcast, powered as always by FanDuel Sportsbook, the exclusive online wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. Until next week, keep that jungle roaring.
FanDuel is the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.